All right, right here with Levi here, November 9th, up in Ellijay, Georgia. Beautiful day, about to break the record maybe on warmth for today. So happy to be up here with Levi. When did you get your nickname Rabbit?
Well, I got out of the Army, and the first day that I worked was a bunch of us gathered up to have lunch, and the Korean War was in full swing, and it was obvious that two or three of us was former military, with combat boots or fatigue pants or something. And my last name is spelled H-A-I-R-E.
Right.
Well, my birth certificate left the I out, and I went in the military with my name spelled H-A-R-E, which is Rabbit.
All right.
And it was when we were eating lunch there, it was what's your name? What's your name? And when I said Hare, and one of the guys said like a rabbit, and I said yeah, with an I in it, and it stuck.
Right.
But,
All right, so obviously you don't mind if I'm calling you Rabbit as we move forward. That's how you're known by friends and family, huh?
I run the first time I run for office in the local, they leave a hair and they do, and the hell is this?
Yeah.
Put the rabbit on it.
All right, where were you born?
I was born in Crisp County in South Georgia,
What year?
1930.
1930.
December 26, 1930.
And tell me a little bit about your parents. What were they doing, or what were they?
My dad was an operator, shovel and dragline operator, and I worked with him at times during the summer doing oiling, whatever, and I couldn't wait to get to 17 or 18 to where I could join the Army and whatever, and when I was 17 I did join the Army, and I got a choice of some things, enlisted, and one of them was, my main thing was go to crane operator school.
Yeah.
And I did. I finished first in the class. And
Really? Where? I don't want to interrupt you, certainly, but where was your dad working? He was running shovels and stuff, but where?
well, my dad went to South Florida in 1920. They was building the levee around Lake Okeechobee and digging all those big canals.
Huh.
And he had a cousin that was down there, got him a job oiling on a dredge, and he oiled on that dredge 6 months, and he made operator. He was an operator for 4 years, and he was tugboats moved those dredges around and not self-propel, and he became a tugboat captain. He was with that company 12 years. They finished up dredging the Savannah Harbor, and when that was over, then there's no more dredge work around, and he went to work. Most of that construction one back then was highways, and shovel was the like in this part of the country, in these hills and banks and whatever, digging with the shovel.
And we're talking steam shovel?
No, they
Cables?
were most of them was gas powered back then. This was in the 30s by now. It's
Right.
into the 30s, and he.
So that's how you worked your way up to Atlanta, and then you guys moved to Atlanta. And,
When in 1945 they were building an Air Force base in West Palm Beach, Florida, and which is now the city airport, and of course we lived there in West Palm Beach, and during those 4 or 5 years of World War II, the jobs didn't last long, and his machine would dig out or whatever. That's where he began to run a drag line, which in the flat, wet country down there. And then he would move with the machine as it went here to there. Well, they were building that, and I can't remember, Hendricks Field or Henderson Field, whatever. which is now the West Palm Beach Airport. And at the supper one night, you know, the Germans had surrendered by now, had just surrendered, and they began to chop off that war work, you know. And South Florida, back during the war, was full of it. I mean, Army, Navy, Marines, and whatever. And Daddy and Mama were talking about it, and they was, Daddy said, you know, when this is finally over, there'll be no more of this war work, and things is going to get tough. He said, I think it'd be wise for us to move back to South Georgia and get us a farm. Okay, so he took off and come to South Georgia. Was gone a couple, 3 days and come back, and we loaded up, and here we come. And my dad and them was out of around Tifton, not Tifton, excuse me, Cordele. And my dad came to, instead of coming around there, was about 60 miles south of there and around Tifton. And it was the tobacco around, and where we moved into, the section we moved into, tobacco was the big cash crop. And that's the reason that my daddy was fiercely against planting any cotton or whatever. We moved up to South Georgia there in 45. And in 48, I got up one morning. My dad on the farm there, when everything was gathered and whatever, there'd be about a 3-month period there of basically not much to do on the farm. And my dad would work at International Tractor Place as a mechanic. And I got up one Monday morning, and he done gone to work. I told Mama, I said, I think I'll go join the Army today. And she said, well, you're 17, somebody's gonna have to sign, and it ain't gonna be me. So I hitchhiked into Tifton, the recruiting office. The guy put me, the recruiting sergeant put me in the car, and we went here to there to wherever I had to go to get this sign to that sign. And Daddy signed for me, you know. Well, he for me, and I went to Crane and Shovel School in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. I finished first in the class.
Through the military?
Pardon?
Through the military?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I was 17 years old and finished first in that class. And my next thing I had to do, I didn't have a choice. They sent me the Far East Command, which at that time was either Japan or Korea. Korea was still occupied, we'll say. I got to Japan in April of '49, and my outfit was the 7th Infantry Division, and they had their last, when World War II was over, when the Battle of Okinawa was over, a few days after the Japanese surrendered, the 7th Division, and I believe it was the 1st Cavalry Division, I'm not sure about that, but they went to Korea to accept the Japanese surrender in Korea. And the way that all worked out was they had to, the foreign powers had to be out of Korea by the 1st of '49.
All right.
And the outfit I got into, the 13th Engineers, had been in Korea, and they left all of the equipment over there for the South Korean Army. And when I got in Japan there, we didn't have diddly squat for equipment. But we would, everything, there was not a lot of money for the military at that time. And it just, shiny shoes or whatever, you know, type thing. And every once in a while we would get a job to and we would borrow dozers and shovels or whatever we needed from other outfits around. And when the war started, was in mechanic school, heavy equipment mechanic school. And I finished third in that class. And
Did you have brothers and sisters? And
big pardon?
did you have brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, I have 5 brothers and one. I had 5 brothers and 1 sister. Me and my next to the youngest brother, there's only 2 that's left.
And kids?
Pardon?
Who's your kids? I know one of them. And your kids? How
Oh,
many
yeah.
kids you got?
Jeff was the youngest. My middle son Paul. Well, I married about 2 years after I got out of the service, and Mary had a son, had a daughter. And that last, and Paul was born, my middle son, Paul was born during my marriage to Mary, which lasted about 2 years, and I divorced her. And then a year and a half later, I was in Atlanta by then, and it was in the Union by then, and I met Charlotte, who was my second wife, and we had that was Jeff's mother.
Right. And Jeff wound up being the president of the local and an agent and things of that nature.
Yeah,
Long time member.
The Marine base at Albany was being built. It just started construction at that time. And it was about the biggest job going on in the South other than Aiken bomb plant, energy, nuclear plant over there. And it was a cost plus, big. And back at that time, the Department of Labor, Georgia Department, when you got out of the military, they sent damn notices to the newspapers and to the employment office, state employment office. And a week after I got home, I got 3 postcards from the employment office.
Mm-hmm.
There was a opening on the state highway had an opening for a shovel operator, and there's 2 operator jobs at that Marine base over there. So I didn't want to go over the state highway because they didn't pay diddly squat, and the Marine base was come under, what is the government scale? What's it called? Brown? What is it?
Davis
Remember?
Bacon?
Pardon?
Davis Bacon? Davis Bacon?
Bacon Davis. And that scale was $2.25 an hour, which was back at that time in South Georgia was tons of money.
Yeah.
And I stayed in Albany there for about 2 years, and we finished up. Me and Sammy Carter, which you was with Heaton Erecting. Do you remember
Oh,
him?
no, I don't, but I'm sure many people do.
And another guy, Edwin Atkinson, we called Dog. 3 of us come to Atlanta, and we shared an apartment for a year and a half or so. And they, both of them married and left me there by myself, and then I married and whatever.
And Carter was had something to do with Heaton. He was what did Heaton Crane? How did Heaton Crane part of your story there? One of the guys was.
Well, Sammy was, both of those guys, Sammy was my oiler at that time, and Dog, the other guy, was a crane operator.
Right.
And the union scale at that time was 275.
Is Sammy part owner of Heaton at the time, or just an employee of Heaton?
Sammy come to Atlanta, and he offered me different for a time or two and whatever, and Sammy, we got on with Superior,
Uh-huh.
and they moved him up from order to operator, whatever. And Edwin Axon Dog, he had his mother owned a big farm in Moultrie in South Georgia, and she talked him into coming home. You got to come home and run this farm. So I left him, you know.
So, like, at what point did you get started with Local 926 or the operating engineers? When did,
Well,
when
they
did
had
you,
that Marine base there was, like I say, was the next the biggest job going on in the South. Well, Albany is not in our jurisdiction. It's in
but, so
Savannah's
we're talking
jurisdiction.
union work at this point,
Yeah.
even back then, right? Okay.
And the different unions, whatever, had a big unionization drive out there on that job, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we shut it down. All of us signed up, and the unionization was not positive. It failed.
Hmm.
We went to where I went to from the outfit I was with to another outfit over. It was on the Marine base, but it was a different outfit, whatever. And
And was that a union company over there?
yeah.
And then they were, that you
R.E.
were,
was R.E. Box, erection company out of Mobile, Alabama.
and then that's pretty much the first time that you started working as an operating engineer.
Yeah.
And what year was that? Can you remember?
53, July
53?
53.
And was there a local at that time that you recall, or was there, it was,
Well, Atlanta jurisdiction was the same as it is now, but when they started that union drive there on the base, that was in Savannah's jurisdiction. Well, Savannah sent a operator over there to get all of us signed up. But all he did, he got drunk, laid up in the hotel, and whatever. And for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then they run his butt off, and they told Tommy that you can have that jurisdiction if you work with it.
if you service it, yeah.
So the president of the local at that time was a guy named Tom Wright, and Tom was a good operator and a
Hard worker, fair guy.
well, yeah, he was the kind of guy that could go and talk to you and whatever.
Mhm.
Well, Tom got us all the operators there on the job signed up. And like I say, that it wound up just the 3 of us that stuck, you know, and come on to Atlanta. And then,
What brought you to Atlanta, the three of you?
pardon?
What brought you to it, the three of you to Atlanta? Was there just a job in Atlanta and you?
Well,
you guys
when
moved?
we finished up down there, called the hall, we finished putting the name on the book. And, Ms. Lester was the secretary at that time, and, an elderly lady, and, well, I don't really, I talked to Tommy, and he don't really have anything, but, if y'all wanna stick with me, come on to Atlanta, and, we'll, just like everybody else, everybody gets your name on out of work, whatever. And to start with there, I run, when I was in the Army, I run every piece of equipment they had. Dozers, motor graders, fans, scrapers, cranes, shovels, all of it, And I come into the local as a crane operator, but when I was out of work, I took what was available, Hell, I eat whole when I had, whatever. And,
Just keep the ball rolling, I'm not sitting home,
Yeah, you gotta, by then, see, I was married, some short time after I come to, about a year after I come to Atlanta, I married, so I had to.
And then you started a family or had some kids and all that, huh? So when you got to Atlanta, So you're probably mid-20s or so at that time?
But I got to Atlanta in 55, in 55. No, I take that, yeah, in 55, yeah, January of 55, yeah.
So, like, you know, naturally you got a lot of age on most of us, and you know, I'm just thinking about our younger members out there, apprentices and such. What was Atlanta? What was it like back then? I mean,
Well,
did you?
it was different from what it is today. The 926, the operators in Atlanta, the carpenters and laborers and whoever run every piece of equipment that we had, you know. And when Tommy Archer got made business manager, put in to stop all that. We had a 53-day strike over a nickel. And we won that, and that sort of got 926 some recognition. And Archer was
Who was the business manager at that time?
he was a business manager 44 years. And he was a picket sign guy. And you know, a picket sign has to be worded, you know, the courts, whatever.
A certain
Well,
way.
he come up with a wording on a picket sign that the Supreme Court ruled was easy to put up on a job, you know. If a non-union outfit was out there and not paying the scale, this is just a notice to the public that these people are not paying whatever wages.
The prevailing wage.
And it
hit a nerve, huh?
Yeah,
But it worked. It was effective.
Oh yeah. But a lot of the other crafts would when Tommy would put a picket on, the operators would all come off the job, you know. And the other crafts, to start with, was some of them was hesitant, but you know, persuasion here and persuasion there, you know.
And they saw it was working, so imagine it snowballed, and there was more and more.
Yeah.
All right.
We
So like, was Hartsfield Jackson the world's largest, busiest airport back then, or Lake Lanier? Did you and your buddies go take the family to Lake Lanier?
Lake Lanier was Buford Dam was being built at that time, and we had people working on Buford Dam, and I never did work on Buford Dam, but we had one of my roommates did work over.
And the airport was probably nothing back then.
Well, the airport, are you familiar with the terminal building that had the tall one before they?
Before they put up the big fancy one? I'm not, again,
At that time, Delta got the first jets. And they couldn't, when they first got them, they just couldn't say, here it is, you guys fly this and whatever. They had to have so many hours in the seat before they could hold passengers. And they would fly this jet from here to, was a landing field somewhere in South Carolina that the military used back during World War II to do touch and goes. Well, that's what they would do with the Stretch 8, DC-8 is what it was. Well, one day we were building the terminal building. The tall terminal building was 7 stories tall. Eating lunch.
air traffic controller thing, where the air traffic controllers worked.
Well, it was just a little shack was about as big as this room here up on top of a building. That's all it was.
Right.
Well, that plane crashed taking off.
Oh, geez.
And burned. And the fire truck come to it, and they had the only fire trucks the airport had was a 37 3/4-ton Chevrolet and something else. I can't remember now. But,
They went out there with a pickup truck to put the fire out?
Well, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, all the airport was fenced as it is today, and there's fire gates around, you know, and all of the cities and counties are surrounding, you know, here they obligated to help, and they get to these fire gates, and the door gates are all locked, ain't nobody got no keys, you know, whatever, you know.
Right.
So, that got the airport some equipment, firefighting equipment and whatever. And that 7-story building, I set that iron, all that iron
Oh.
and all of that.
Right on.
And that was in '58. I wanted, the out-of-town jobs suited me more than the in-town allowance.
You kind of like traveling a little bit, huh?
The bigger out-of-town jobs, it usually was new equipment, bigger equipment, and they made some overtime and whatever. Well, I wanted, there's building, you know, Oliver Dam in Columbus,
Columbus, Georgia.
outfit, Standard, did all the fire company's work at that time. Tommy sent me down one day to unload some sheet piling. He said just be 2 or 3 days. Well, the superintendent was Foots Blackman, and he watching me work, you know, he said, I'd like for you to come back down when I get, they didn't have the permit for the job. He said, we can't do anything out there until we get the permit. You wanna come out? Well, hell yeah, so I went, when they got the permit, I went back. And I stayed with Foots for about 1.5 years. And I always wanted to go on one of these big overseas jobs. Well, this is in 1958 and the Russians are coming. And they built it around the Arctic Circle up there, that ballistic missile early warning system. Well, there's an outfit in town, Shepherd Construction Company. And 2 more out, Shepherd, Crow, and Steers, to a joint venture. Got one of those jobs. So I said, go Charlotte one night there at the table, I said, I think I'll fill out an application. Well, I did, and I mailed it in like on a Monday, and on a Wednesday I got a letter back from them wanting to interview me on a Saturday. And I went to Atlanta on Saturday and talked to them, and Monday morning I was in Greenland running the shovel.
No kidding. Oh.
And the season was about 4 months. And when I come back, boy, my memory's about gone. What's the big shopping center on Peachtree? Leonard Square was being built.
Uh-huh.
Well, Tommy sent me out to I run a 933 Cat front end loader out there for wherever it seemed like. And you know, I would take those jobs, and Tommy would tell me, you know, as soon as I get a crane, I'll
Let
move
you
you.
know.
Well, even I went here to there, and wound up.
Was it a union job, the Greenland job?
No,
Okay.
no. The vast majority of us up there were union.
Right.
When they wanted me to go, I could come to Atlanta and talk to Archer about it, and he said, well, it ain't in our jurisdiction, whatever, fine. So,
Oh. So, when were you in Local 926? Was that 55? Is that what?
53.
53. All right. And then and then Local 926. So, I do know that you became training director, but how did that come about?
The apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
In the late 60s, back up a little bit. You know, I told you that the carpenters and all these other crafts were running our equipment. Well, part of our when we were in court, you have to be unless it was some running 3 welding machines or, you know, whatever, something, you know, whatever. But after negotiations began, you know, it was, you know, you had to have so many apprentices for X number of journeymen, and we began to get some of that in the contracts. And it began to be easier, you know, to put apprentices on the job.
Alright, so then, how did you wind up being the chosen one, or?
Well, when Tommy Archer, the business manager, would go to the conferences and whatever, he would go. And Rufus Deason, wife and Tommy's wife were big buddies. So Rufus always went with him, you know. And so when the apprenticeship programs,
And Rufus was who,
first director,
okay, for the international, for,
no, of 926.
okay, gotcha, alright.
And Rufus was all right. He had a lot of good faults, and he had some things that he would do that didn't suit me too well. But any damn way, he was director the first 9 years. I was his assistant.
Gotcha,
And at that time, I was a master mechanic for heating and erecting.
okay.
Well,
And obviously a part-time job for you, not heating, but the assistant training, right?
yeah, full time, yeah.
It was full-time.
Full
It
time.
became full-time, but so you were the mechanic at Heaton and then wound up,
Yeah, I was a master mechanic at Heaton. Well, when Kennedy was president, all this excess surplus government equipment they had, a lot of people got filthy rich buying and selling that stuff. Well, Kennedy passed a law that training programs and different outfits could utilize that. The Vietnam War was going on, and the Army base at Forest Park,
old Fort Gillem?
Fort Gillem,
Uh-huh.
was at that time was Atlanta Army Depot, for a big repair depot. And I've seen train loads come in there just everything you can think of, you know. I got a 955 loader from out there, didn't have but 20-something hours on it. But it had a hole about the size of a basketball in the block, you know.
Oh, geez.
And what I would do was, me and Rufus went out there every Friday looking for equipment. And what I would do, like that 955, the airborne motor graders were a 112 Cat, which was a 4-cylinder engine as opposed to the 12 motor grader that had 6 cylinders. And I would
Transfer motors?
oh yeah, just swap, you know, whatever. And they just got rid of that 955 not too long. Kept it for
You've seen it for years,
Yeah, we had, well, I went all over the South down here looking for equipment, and I was sort of supply clerk for the international, you know. I'd find this
gotcha.
stuff, and even if it wasn't for me, I would haul it in, and Ohio was one of the locals that would take a hell of a lot of it.
Right, so being where by Fort Gillem, you had a lot of traffic of equipment.
Oh, Lord, yeah,
and,
Lord, yeah.
You're able to disperse that to other
Yeah,
locals.
Yeah. And I got 6 motor graders at one time and made 3 out of the 6.
Oh, right. That's good. So just to back up a little bit, so you're a master mechanic at Heaton. Rufus was the director. He needed some help. He got permission, obviously, or they needed an assistant. Needed to get this thing going off the ground. One guy working there wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you started bringing in apprentices, and you were working there full time. How often? What was the routine for apprentice? How often would they need to come
Well,
in?
at that time, the hours 6,000-hour program as it is, I guess, still today. Well, it was 3 years or 6,000 hours, really, originally. They come to school, they came to the training. We didn't have a damn training site.
I was just gonna ask, where was the training site? Where were you doing?
Well, the first one was a vacant lot behind McDonald's there on Stewart Avenue. And then the Boy Scout
On 3rd Avenue?
on Stewart Avenue.
Stewart Avenue.
Cleveland, you know. They, memory.
Training site location. I mean, wasn't in Ellenwood there, huh?
Oh, the Boy Scouts, you know, there's a Boy Scout camp in Covington. And Rufus lived in Covington. The Boy Scout camp was just down the way from him there. Well, somewhere or other he run into the head of that, whatever. The Boy Scouts was one of the outfits that we could do work for with that equipment.
Oh, okay, like, yeah. Like
So-
training on it, like, hey, we'll do this and, you know.
So we moved out to the out to the Boy Scout camp. And we built roads and backstops for the rifle range. I don't know what all we done out there.
Whatever you guys could think of, really.
A lot of
Yeah.
improvements we did for them.
Mhm.
Well, by then, we had, the program had accumulated a little money. And a guy named Bill Hall was one of the agents at that time. Just run up on, you know, the old training site on there
In Ellenwood?
in Ellingwood.
Right.
Sign there, 25 acres for sale. Well, wound up, we bought that and moved from Scout Camp out there.
So you were around, you probably weren't involved with that really because you were an assistant at the time, but do you know like what they paid for it or anything like that?
Say again?
Do you know what they paid for it by chance?
Oh yeah, we give $75,000 for the 25 acres.
25 acres right there
Yeah.
in Ellenwood.
Yeah.
Alright.
And it's the owner was a superintendent for an outfit there in Atlanta, and most of us had worked for, we knew him.
Uh-huh.
He,
So 675 was there. It was there and or being built or it was a 2-lane road or
well, it was dirt road, done road at that time was dirt.
675 was the dirt road?
Well, there wasn't no 675 at that time. 675 come along a number of years later.
Okay. So it was
And
just a
they
dirt
got
road
10
through
they
the
got-
woods, huh?
They got, 675 got 10 acres of the property.
Oh, okay.
And on the back side of the property was 2 acres that joined us. It was owned by a retired painter. They asked him about, you want to sell? Oh yeah, I'll sell you. And I don't forgot, we bought the 2 acres and I don't forgot what we get for it, but it wasn't much.
Right.
And that brought us into an 8-acre tract. That guy was tractor trailer type mechanic, you know, heavy Mack trucks or whatever type of mechanic. And he wanted to move, and he sold us that 8 acres, give us 10 acres. We still got 25 acres, you know.
Okay. So what positions did you hold with 926? I mean, I know that you were assistant and then
Well,
you
I
wound up
was,
taking up for Rufus.
I was a business agent for about 2.5 years, and that ain't my line of work.
That wasn't for you.
I don't. I served on the executive board as a trustee or one of those.
Trustee or guard or something?
Yeah, and I don't remember which now for several years. And I was a business agent for 2.5 years. I quit Heaton. I was with Heaton. I was a master mechanic with Heaton when I quit to go to the business agent shop. And I'd made up my mind. I got to get the hell out of here. This ain't my line of work. So I run into Heaton on a job, and I told him,
Which Heaton?
pardon,
Who exactly was it that you ran into?
Jake Eaton.
Jake Eaton,
the
okay.
owner.
Right.
And I told him Friday be my last day as agent. He said, "You want to come back to work for me?" And I said, "Well, you got 4 cranes and 4 operators." He said, "Well, master mechanic." I said, "Yeah, call Archer and make it okay with him." So he called the union all the way up. So I did. And
So you went there as master mechanic, worked, and then you wound up coming back to the training site? And
no, I was with Heaton. I went on to work on another dam in South Georgia at Fort Gaines,
all right.
and stayed there about 2 years, and I began to get tired of that. I used to, me and I inherited my daddy, I guess. My daddy was a quit more jobs than most people ever thought. Look at that.
You'd come and go.
And I used to be the same way, you know.
Right.
And I moved. I decided I'd come back to Atlanta. So I called Archer and told him I was a steward and all that, you know, and whatever. So, he said, "Well, Serco, outfit named Serco was moved into town. They got a job out on the river out there, whatever. Be out there Monday morning at 7 o'clock." And Serco was an outfit out of Birmingham, Contractors Equipment Rental Company. I finished up the job there, and well, there were 3 cranes, and 2 of the cranes was finishing up, and Serco was going to start a crane rental in Atlanta, so which operators you going to keep, whatever. Well, the superintendent wanted to keep that tall, slim guy. Well, they got me and this tall, slim guy mixed up, so I left the job there and went around to the crane rental, which, you know, it's where I got with Jake Heaton to start with. He was general manager of Serco.
Oh, okay.
And I worked with, I don't know how long, a pretty good while, and I was on a job on the north side of Atlanta out there, and he'd come out one day and crawl up on the rig and talk a few minutes, and he handed me a note, and he said, "Read this and let me know what you think." And he got in and left.
Who's this?
Heaton.
Okay. Jake Heaton gave you the note.
So I read the note, and it was Rabbit. He said, "I'm finally going to go in business for myself, and I want you to come be I'm going to have 1 crane to start with. I want you to be the operator. I'll pay you $1 above union scale and furnish you all the expenses, whatever.
Right.
So my brother was working for the company at Heaton Erected at the same time as an oiler, and I wanted to make an operator out of my brother, so I told Jake, I said, and Jake, in his little note, he said that the oiler will get just union scale, and I said, "No, I ain't going to that shit," you know. And finally he said, "Well, no problem." He said, "Out of town," he said, "all the difference would be is food, you know. You're in a motel, it was too bad, you know, go there." And my brother was, I made an operator, I used him. My brother was a good operator.
Right. So let me just go back. So Jake Heaton was working for
Circle of Georgia.
Circle of Georgia,
Yeah.
and he decided, "I'm going to start my own company."
Yeah.
And he came to you, gave you the letter,
Yeah.
and come over, and you wanted to bring your brother, so then you'd have he'd have 2 employees, huh? To begin with.
Yeah. And the first job he had was at Armstrong Cork and Seal in Macon. He bought a 2900 Vanderwalt truck crane. And he to come out and he said, I'll give you a choice of one of two things. You can get hydraulic outriggers or power down. Well, that 2900 was a 65 ton capacity rig with pretty good size, and you don't want to screwing them outriggers down. So I took the hydraulic outriggers portion of that. And the first year, he made money on every job we did except one. He lost, I think, $7 or something, some minor thing, whatever. And he told us, you know, he would tell us, me and the ironworkers, you make me some money, and I'm gonna see that you make money. And we did. We made a lot of overtime, you know. Jake was the kind of guy that could get out and get to work. Now he was as good as he is with that.
Right.
And you know he got 2,900. Then we bought, me and him went to St. Louis, and he bought a 45-ton Lorraine. And a few days later, he bought a 30-ton Lorraine. And then a few days later, a short time later, he bought a 50-ton P&H.
So he was going for it. You know, you guys are going to grow this
He was
company.
all that busy, you know. He was doing the crane rental and erection at the same time. And Jay Heaton was a big friend of the guy that owned Macon Pre-Stress Concrete. And that single T's and double T
Mechanism thing, yeah.
were just coming into being, and they were being built at that time, and Georgia was there's where they were all coming out, and we got all of that work, whatever, you know. And the same thing in Augusta. Him and that guy that owned that concrete plant over there got to be big buddies, and we went over there, and he made Jake, and then Atlantic Steel was here in town at that time, out at you know, 75 to 85, we know
Oh, okay, right.
on the left, which all them tall buildings are there now.
Right.
And they got they had a conveyor that run them coils of wire from all over, wherever. And they wanted to move some of them. Well, Jake had two partners who were iron workers, and they decided what they would do was they would cut into the links, unbolt in certain lengths, 150 feet or whatever, and then we would take two cranes out there and just pick all of that up and travel with it over here to where it goes and set it down. And Atlantic Steel thought that was the finest thing since sliced bread. Well, we got all that where Atlantic Steel's work then. You know.
Right.
And then it was either Holder or Hardin, one or the other. I cannot remember now which. We got all of their work. They were big, are still, I guess, big general contractors here in town.
So you worked with Heaton for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then, at what point did you work at the training site full time and like you?
Well, I worked on Saturdays there for some period of time, and did all the night class.
Okay.
Yeah, I made more damn money than
Because you were working during the day and then you'd go there and.
working every Saturday and working 3 nights a week, whatever, you know. And it was, you know, the working on Saturday it was obvious to me that ain't the way to go. Because, you know, you take a kid that's never been on anything and he comes on a Saturday morning and you know, he stays 8 hours and by the time that you get him everything you do before you crank up and then you get cranked up and show him all of this and whatever and let him do demonstration and let him do whatever, it's quitting time. Well, he comes the next Saturday.
Started all over
again. He done whatever, you know.
Right.
So come up with, you know, instead of that Saturday work, they need to come 5 days straight.
5 days straight, gotta knock off work, come on here, let's, right,
And and about that time, I went to work for the training program full time.
okay,
And what I would do was, you know, all of our equipment was that Army stuff,
right,
you know. And a lot of it was, like I say, I took 6 motor graders and made 3. Took that motor out of one motor grader and put that in front end loader, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that was right down my alley. I really loved that kind of stuff,
right,
you know. And what I would do was, I knew every Saturday who was coming and what it was going to be running. And the first thing I did was to put batteries in, make sure the alternators worked, and when they sit down in the seat and turn the key, it would crank, you know.
right,
And then the next thing I did was clean and paint. Because I always worked on the theory, if it looks like crap, they're going to treat it like crap.
Yep.
If it looks good, they'll. And the
Be
first
proud.
thing that I painted was, the Army had a bunch of scrapers, Caterpillar scrapers. A 4-wheel drive tractor was under them. And we had 2 of them, and I cleaned and painted them. And them guys come back the next Saturday, they've been painted, and they swore up and down, nah, this ain't what we had last week, you know. But they did look after it more.
Uh-huh.
Took a big interest in it.
Who were some of your early apprentices that stuck around in the organization that a lot of people would know probably?
Well, Harold Perry is the one that comes to mind.
Uh-huh.
There's
Oh, there's some apprentices there, huh?
yeah, there those 3 over there are also, or those 2 there are also.
Woody Townsend, yeah, King. There's a bunch of them, yeah. Greg Lee. I recognize some names there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot
But
of
some of those guys are retired by now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Huh. There you go.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when they started the pension or voted on it and all that kind of stuff?
No. It would have been in the early 60s.
Uh-huh.
We started off with the Health and Welfare Fund, 2.5 cents an hour.
2.5 cents an
2.5
hour.
cents an hour. And people today look at it like half cent. Well, hell no. They had the half cent in construction work for way back under.
Huh. What was a big historical event that you recall? You know, like Kennedy or something like that. What do you think kind of grabbed you the most over your life?
Oh, I don't know.
Like walking on the moon or something? You're just like, holy moly, Elvis or something.
You know, it's hard to say.
The end of the war, I guess. Okay. How long you been collecting your retirement?
I retired at the 20th of January of 93.
Retired in 93.
93.
All right. You've been collecting a while, huh?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they come in on time? Your checks come in on time?
Oh yeah.
Never missed any?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's direct deposit.
But you've never had a
Show
problem.
up on my bank
Right.
deposit slip.
It's you've gotten more out of it than you ever put into it, I would imagine, at this point.
Yeah. When I retired, I didn't take a pay cut.
Right.
I had the 2 pensions, a general and central pension fund. I had Social Security, and I drew within $1 or $2 of what I was
What you were making.
what
Yeah.
I'm making now.
What age was it when you retired? Were you 60, 62?
I turned 65 on the, well, I retired at 62, 62. And my birthday is the 26th of December.
Oh.
I turned in my retirement, was supposed to have been the 8th of January. And I was not gonna leave until the auditors could come and do the books, you know. And the business manager at that time was a guy named Bob Brannon.
Mm-hmm.
They don't spend that, well, the trustees told him, you know, that's just good business, you know, so. But I wasn't gonna, I told him I ain't leaving till, when I walk out of here, I'm gonna have a copy of that,
Cause you knew that you were pretty responsible for that, and you didn't want any chance of.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, and I've got that, some of these files here somewhere today.
Right.
When I left, everything that was supposed to be there was there.
Right. Good deal. Yeah. What do you think made you step up? I mean, were you just asked, or I imagine it was a combination of things that why they chose you to be, you know, training director, or what was it that kind of you think put you in that position? Did you step up?
When to start with, there the first the assistant was Rufus couldn't do all this stuff that really had to be done at that time.
Right.
He was not a mechanic, and Rufus was very good at some things, but some things he wasn't.
Right.
And I could pretty well do it all. You know.
Right.
I was a welder, mechanic,
versatile,
operator, and the whole shoot.
And I imagine by being the assistant, that kind of when it came time to find one, well, Rabbit's been an assistant. He's already knows quite a bit about it.
When Rufus announced his retirement, Archer called me and said, I'm thinking about putting Bill Hall as in charge. And I said, I won't say what I said, Lord. But he changed his mind, you know. And I just went from assistant to director, you know.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Archer used Rufus as more as a business manager, a business agent.
Right.
And he did his
The training
time,
director.
Yeah. And
he had him doing everything else, but pretty much at the time. So are there any other contractors that you worked for other than Heaton that are still around here? Like, there was no Maxim at the time, or you did Superior, you guys were working for Superior?
No, I never did work for Superior, no. Well, I take that back, I filled in operator would, you know, be sick or get hurt or get whatever for a day or two, you know.
Keep the ball rolling, right.
Yeah.
But when the decision came for you to become the director, you gladly took it and you know, figured, well, I'm work with these young people and get them going, and I care, and let's get this local 926 solid, huh?
Yeah. And you know, I told him I got down there. I can't do all this by myself. I can keep all this stuff up. I can keep it running, but I can't keep it up.
Right.
And I was doing all of that work and the instruction also, you know. And by then I had night instructors that
to help with the training and stuff.
the night classes.
Right. If you were standing there, what kind of advice would you give a group of apprentices coming up? Like any advice on how they should perceive their union or?
Well, let me tell you, like I told you, my daddy was an operator, and when I got those 3 postcards from the employment office, you know,
right,
And that morning I was fixing to leave to go over there. He said, boy, let me tell you something. There's two things you've got to remember. One is you're gonna have to make the man a little money. He's gonna go broke and you ain't gonna have nobody to work with. And that's the fact, Jack. And the other one is, they don't build none of these jobs in your backyard. You're gonna have to go where the work is. And that's two things that I tried to stress to the
Apprentices,
apprentices.
to your apprentices, yep. Straightforward.
Yeah. You know,
That's a fact, Jack, I know
We
that,
had,
I lived it.
we had a lot of people and members at that time. The trolleys were still in Atlanta, you know.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of guys didn't, if the damn trolley, if they couldn't get to work on the trolley, they didn't want a job, you know.
That ain't gonna fly.
No, it ain't gonna work for me.
These guys,
Yeah.
these contractors don't operate like that, you know. All right, well, we're gonna stop right here.